Welcome back to the Southside YMCA in Chicago for our First Take special, State of the Nation, a discussion on the social unrest that has gripped the country. We are here at the Southside YMCA in Chicago. Thank you for joining us. And with us here now, Chicago native, star of the Milwaukee Bucks, Jabari Parker. Thank you so much for being with us. We so appreciate it. You recently wrote a very powerful piece in the Players Tribune, including your personal experience growing up in this community. You titled it Chicago. I want to read an excerpt of it right now to share with everybody. It's hard to be optimistic and hopeful that things will change in Chicago, but I am. I have to be, because if I don't have that attitude, then the kids there won't believe that things can get better. But things are going to get better. It is going to change if we step up and help our city, and I'm here to help. I'm not going to be folklore. Jabari, what's the message that you have for former and current athletes when it comes to social activism?
Speaking of my own experience, I've been able to be involved with my role models. One specifically, Juwan Howard, used to host camps for us Chicago public school kids in the summertime to go to, and it was free. And he was an all-star during the time, very known. And me being in his presence made it a reality that, hey, I can leave, I can come back, I can be on top of the world, but I can still care about my community, my environment. So I'm here today and trying to walk in his own footsteps, and hopefully other players and my colleagues that have been in Chicago can do the same.
From my understanding, you've been speaking about how it's worse now than it was a few years ago. Can you talk about that a little bit, what you're seeing in Chicago now compared to what it was years ago when Juwan Howard was coming back in the community helping you? Not that he always has, because he's always doing something.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot worse now with the violence. A lot more guns have been funneled through our communities. And back then, as a kid, I'd be able to go to the park and get a nice hoop in without any trouble, without any crossfire. But nowadays, these kids don't have the protection. They don't have the freedom to go be active and go around the community and experience different parts of the city. But they're just in one specific place in their household. And that's not how it should be when you're a kid growing up.
You're, what, 21 now, right? Yeah. I mean, this is not coming from someone who's 35 years old, who's been out of the community for you know, decades and decades. You were just there, and now you return as a millionaire athlete. I guess the question is, what's that like for you?
I mean, it's...
Dinner's on Jabari.
Yeah. But I'll be able to accept that. You know, that's my responsibility. I have a lot of friends that just graduated out of high school, and I come back and take them out. And part of me, I just want to be involved. I just want to be here and be known. I'm not that far removed. I'm 21 years old. But part of my responsibility, like I was saying, is I'm their age, so they can be able to look up to me and saying, hey, if this man at his age has a clear conscience, why can't I look up to him and we can bandwagon together, create change?
Have you ever contemplated what life would be like for you on a personal level if you were a member of the Chicago Bulls instead of the Milwaukee Bucks, because you're a native son of this city, with the violence that has been taking place? Have you thought about that at all? And if so, what are the thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I definitely thought about it. You know, being in Chicago will allow me to make it easier to touch upon those communities that I've grew up in and that are struggling now. But it makes no difference for me being in Chicago than I am in Milwaukee, just because of the distance. I'm able to come back as much as I want to during the off time. And even in the area that I'm in Milwaukee, I'm still trying to elaborate and trying to help change. I'm a member and a spokesman with the Milwaukee Public Schools, and we're trying to, you know, help forward our school system and better in attendance. And this year we've been doing that.
You mentioned it's not a big distance. Would you consider it's almost like a suburb of Chicago, right? So I imagine, you know, people talk about the distractions and the kind of pull of the neighborhood and everything that entails on athletes who wind up playing in their own city. But in a way, you're experiencing that now, I imagine. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I definitely experience it, but I just try to make it as simple as possible. If I have free time, to be productive and be a part of something that's going to help you become a better person. Because each day that goes by, if you're not getting better, personally, then you're getting worse. So that's just my motive. Try to do something simple each and every day if that's helping a homeless person. But my initiative, bettering myself, trying to get that credential so I can create change, like I'm saying.
You know, you talked about, playing in the summertime, going in the park, we all know that you got leagues that folks can participate in prior to getting to the NBA or whatever. I know Rondo's thinking about it, if not discussing it. Knowing LeBron and others, they'll probably tackle an issue like this. I'm wondering, how receptive are you to addressing the NBA and other sports leagues about financing some of these leagues and engaging these leagues and with these leagues so more recreational activities can be available for a lot of youth in America?
Yeah, we definitely can, but I think from the Milwaukee Bucks standpoint, just speaking about my organization, we've been able to do that. We have created each player with a ticket package, and that can funnel through programs in the Milwaukee public school system that allows kids with good grades, good attendance to come participate in our games and be a part of the crowd. So if we can just have those same initiatives like you were saying with different teams and rewarding these kids with good grades and excellence and have them come out to the games, they look up to stuff like that, especially in major cities like New York and Chicago or Los Angeles, where tickets cost $100-some-odd. But if we have these kids come and participate and be a part of it for free, then it gives them more motivation to do well in school. And we try to do that in Milwaukee.
Yeah, especially if you make the playoffs. You guys have a pretty good team. If you make the playoffs this year, it wouldn't be a bad idea, right?
Oh, it would be great, yeah.
No, I love that. And it's a tangible example of programs that can be instilled right here in this community. Commend you on all your work, and best of luck this season. Thank you so much for being here, and also that piece you wrote, really powerful. I encourage everybody to check that out on the Players Tribune. After the break, we will speak to other Chicago natives here, members of the community, as this First Take special continues from the Southside YMCA. Stay tuned.
Someone's going to raise your kids. Right. Something's going to raise your kids. And if you're not going to be the first in line and the only one to bear that responsibility, that onus, watch out, because they will be led astray. They will find themselves a role model, whether that's a positive role model or negative role model. And that role model will have influence, and it will reinforce itself every single day if someone doesn't interrupt that cycle, make it a positive experience. So I challenge everyone in this room, including myself, as I raise 2 children of my own, and everyone in here. We know it takes a village, but it takes you to be responsible.
Marcellus, phenomenal yesterday. Welcome back.
My brother.
Yes, he is. Welcome back to First Take State of the Nation special here live from Southside YMCA in Chicago, back with Stephen A. and Max. And now we want to welcome this back to the community here, and Eddie Bocanegra joins us. And Eddie, I say this affectionately, you truly turned your mess into your message, and your story is incredible. You were in a Chicago gang, wound up serving time for murder, and he turned his life around and now heads the YMCA Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Program. We appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Eddie, tell us what you're doing to help the community right now.
So within the context of the YMCA, the advantage that we have at the Y, that we have a great infrastructure and outreach. So we work from all the way from the north side all the way down to the south side. Our motto is healing is prevention, which means that, which is something that hasn't been really discussed, like how do we really heal from all this? And so we use science to be able to inform the work that we do by providing mentorship, case management, and more importantly, spaces where people feel safe. And one of the ways that we do that, in a very creative way, is by bringing together 2 very vulnerable populations, like United States combat vets, and connecting them to our kids who are experiencing chronic trauma. So these are kids who, if you do an intake assessment form with them, they're seeing homicides on a daily basis, shootings, and even at home, domestic violence, and even at school issues. And the idea is to bring them together to talk about the challenges they both have experienced in the field or outside the field, because for many of our kids, they identify themselves as soldiers, and they are living in war zone communities.
So if they're living in war zone communities and they identify themselves as soldiers, what can be done to reshape their personality, the formula that makes them who they are? Because a lot of people out here unfortunately, look at a lot of kids, and we should never look at kids as lost causes, of course not. But you have a lot of people in society who do feel that way simply because of their own fears, because of what has been projected. What can be done to sort of reformulate and reshape these individuals that may have been thinking wrongly or going about doing the wrong things?
Well, see, I think it's two points to that. The first one is that we often look at our kids as deficits in our community, especially when you see the young people with those hoodies and so forth. And in reality, they're assets. And if you trace a lot of what their negative behavior is, that something at a very young age has happened to them that's triggered other things and it's had a ripple effect in their own lives. And the question for me would be actually that, well, how do you change that narrative? How does media, social media, and so forth create a new narrative of our young people and communities of color? And I think the second point that I'd like to mention is that in my case, I'm an executive director. I graduated from a top university, the University of Chicago. And I'm a family member. I'm a parent. I'm a husband, a homeowner. But even that narrative is often not shared. People with records are often marginalized, are not considered to be part of the solution. And if you think of the communities that I heard you mention earlier, how do we bring the people who are often the closest to the problem to be able to solve these issues as well? And I think that's important within the context of this equation.
What was the change for you?
I think the reality, something that you guys mentioned today, is social capital. I had mentors who actually invested in me, who saw potential in me, who guided me through the process of school and even within my own work right now. I mean, my CEO in many ways has been my mentor. I've never worked at a corporation. And someone who has a different lifestyle, different experiences actually took an interest to help develop me, including the other senior staff at the Y, but just community leaders, people who have been invested in really creating solutions to the problems without their own egos or feeding into their own egos or self-esteem and so forth. So I think that has been one of the key ingredients to where I'm at right now.
Eddie, thank you so much for sharing your story, and we applaud you turning your life around. And I mentioned this earlier, but a recurring theme we're hearing is mentorship. And what a pivotal role that plays in provoking change. And any of us can do that regardless of where we are. When we come back, we're going to answer the questions, where do we go from here? How do we get there? First Take State of the Nation from the Southside YMCA in Chicago continues next. Stay with us.
First Take is brought to you by Smith & Forge Hard Cider. Cider the way it's supposed to taste. Taco Bell's new cheesy core burritos. And Sully, the untold story behind the miracle on the Hudson, in theaters September 9th.
It's important for all of us to help each other, to go back and say, you know what, where did this start at? How did this start? And let's see how we can change there. And not try to be one individual, not be Waysworth Foundation and go out and try to do one rally and try to speak by myself. It's about a collective group. It's about a whole coming together and understanding that, it's deep rooted. And this is something that didn't start today. This is something that's not going to end tomorrow, but this is something that we can start a conversation. We can start the work today, and hopefully eventually, we can stop it.
Welcome back into First Take from the Southside YMCA here at our State of the Nation. Our special continues. And first of all, I want to thank everyone here in the audience for being here with us, all our guests that were here. I want to thank the Undefeated, ESPN, our First Take staff. And really quick, some final thoughts. And Stephen A., before you jump in here, I just want to say to everyone, obviously a lot of layers to this issue. It can be overwhelming. But the thing that really stood out to me is if you want to get involved, just investing your time, whether it's in education, parks and recreation, and making yourself educated on what's occurring.
Bottom line is this. I appreciate Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Isaiah Thomas, everybody being out here, Arthur Flager, everybody else. I appreciate the trials and tribulations that we face as a community. We understand. We get it. We understand that a lot of times things are done wrong to us, but we're doing wrong to ourselves. We're victimizing ourselves. And I'm not interested in folks coming to the black community and doing for the black community. I'm interested in folks helping the black community do for ourselves. Personal accountability, personal responsibility is what it ultimately comes down to. You got to love one another and stop the violence, because at the end of the day, the only people that we're killing are ourselves, literally and figuratively.
And we'll have an ongoing conversation as social issues come up on this show about that topic and the difference between the kind of institutional responsibility and personal responsibility, and it's ongoing.
Again, thank you everyone here at the Southside YMCA for having us, all of you. We really appreciate allowing us to have this conversation and being a part of it, and it's just the beginning.